Hey everyone, welcome back. We've all seen those videos with millions of views and thought, wow, how did they do that? But what if I told you that chasing views is kind of the wrong game to be playing? Today, we're going to dive deep into the data to find out what really makes a YouTube channel pop, and trust me, the answer is probably not what you think. Okay, let's get right into it. For like ever, the gold standard for success on YouTube has been the view count. It's that big, flashy number you see first, and it just seems like the most obvious way to measure popularity. But as it turns out, that's a huge, dangerous myth.
So that begs the big question, right? If it's not views, then what is it? What is the algorithm actually looking for? Well, the answer is all about the huge difference between getting someone to click and actually getting them to stay and watch.
Now this slide right here tells such a fascinating story. This isn't just a guess. This is data from a massive study of 5.3 million YouTube videos. You see those green triangles? They represent a cooking channel that gets an absolute ton of views. But look down at their average watch time. It's way down at only 18%. Now compare that to the blue circles, a political channel. They get way fewer views, but their audience is completely locked in, watching over 80% of the video. This is the perfect picture of why a high view count doesn't mean a thing if people aren't actually watching.
So this is the main battle we're talking about. On one side, you have popularity, which, let's be honest, is really just about getting people to click. It's a pretty shallow metric. On the other side, you've got engagement. What happens after that click? That's the true measure of how good your content actually is. And guess what? That's what YouTube really cares about.
So if even raw watch time isn't the whole picture, how in the world do we measure engagement accurately? Well, the good news is science actually gives us a much smarter way to think about this. Let's take a look. The answer is this thing called relative engagement. And it's brilliant. Instead of just looking at your watch percentage in a bubble, it compares your video's performance to all the other videos out there that are a similar length. So a 10-minute video gets judged against other 10-minute videos, and a 2-hour video gets judged against other 2-hour videos. It completely levels the playing field. Now, this is where it gets kind of mind-bending. It sounds wrong, doesn't it? How could 19% be better than 21%? But when you adjust for the length, getting people to watch for over 30 minutes of a 3-hour video is a massive achievement. It's way more impressive than someone watching just 1 minute of a 5-minute video before clicking away. That long video has an incredibly high relative engagement score. And the researchers found that this metric isn't just a clever idea, it's seriously powerful. It's stable, meaning a video score doesn't just jump all over the place. And, here's the most important part, it lines up almost perfectly with what we would all agree is high-quality content. So the lesson here is huge. Aim for high relative engagement.
Okay, so now we know what the algorithm wants. But that's really only half the battle. We also have to understand the human side of things. You know, what is the psychology that actually drives us, the viewers, to slam that share button in the first place? Let's break down the science of virality.
According to research by Jonah Berger, it really comes down to two key parts of any emotion. The first is valence. Is the feeling good or bad? Pretty simple. But the second part, and this is the one that really matters, is arousal. Does the emotion get your heart pumping and make you want to do something, or does it kind of make you want to curl up and do nothing? And here is the secret sauce. High arousal emotions are basically jet fuel for sharing. It doesn't even matter if they're positive, like awe, or negative, like anger and anxiety. If an emotion fires you up and puts you in a state where you feel like you have to act, you are way more likely to take the action of sharing it. On the flip side, low arousal emotions, even really powerful ones like sadness, are deactivating. They make us less likely to act. The research showed that even though sad stories might make us feel deeply, they are way less likely to end up on the most emailed list. So what's the takeaway? If you want shares, you need to get the blood flowing.
Now this all sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work in the real world? Let's look at how actual creators, people who started with absolutely nothing, use these very principles to build huge audiences.
So get this. Take a creator named Sean Overton. He bought 320 acres of barren, totally dead Texas desert with this insane dream to turn it into a forest. He had zero YouTube experience, no background in agriculture, nothing. But he just hit record on day one and started filming his attempt. And people were absolutely captivated by the journey. The struggle, the small wins, the pure ambition of it all. They got hooked watching a regular person try to do the impossible.
Or think about Ian. After 12 years of making videos with hardly any success, his raw, unfiltered video about being 30 and working a dead-end job at 7-Eleven just exploded. And why? Because it was painfully relatable. It was authentic vulnerability. There was no fancy editing, no script, just a real person sharing a real struggle. That kind of connection is more powerful than any production value, period.
So you can really boil these success stories down into a clear strategy. Document an ambitious journey. Share your authentic struggles. If you can, be right there on the ground for major current events, and focus on solving big, meaningful problems for a specific group of people. It's all about the depth of your connection, not the breadth of your appeal.
Of course, none of this matters if you can't get that first click. A perfectly engaging video that no one ever watches is totally useless. And this is where the psychology of the thumbnail comes in.
So what actually works? Well, a fascinating analysis of top YouTubers' thumbnails showed some really clear patterns. The strongest emotions for grabbing attention are surprise and disgust. They just spark instant curiosity. But here's the interesting part. The most successful creators often balance this with neutral or smiling faces, which makes them seem way more approachable. And the key is that what works best is super dependent on your niche. A gaming channel's thumbnail is going to look totally different from a beauty channel's.
The strategy here is pretty straightforward. Use those high arousal emotions like surprise, but do it strategically. Mix them with more approachable expressions. Always consider your specific audience. And most importantly, test everything. A/B testing your thumbnails is one of the single highest impact things you can do to grow your channel.
So, after looking at the data, the psychology, and all the real-world strategies, what does the new playbook for YouTube success actually look like? Let's put all the pieces together.
Here it is. First, your goal isn't views, it's high relative engagement. Second, your content needs to trigger those high arousal emotions that make people want to act and share. Third, your strategy should be built on authenticity, documenting your journey and providing real value. And finally, your gateway to all of this is a thumbnail that understands human psychology and wins that critical first click.
And that leaves us with one last thought. We spend so much of our time asking how to go viral, a goal that's often just random and unpredictable. But what if we changed the question? What if we focused all our energy on creating something so genuinely engaging, so valuable and emotionally resonant that the algorithm and the audience have no choice but to pay attention? That, right there, is the code.